two, one. Oh my goodness. Good morning, good afternoon. Whatever it is for you, I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Zach Schomler. This is Strong Opinion Sports, episode 399. Welcome in. One more to 400. It's funny, I've actually got 4 episodes already recorded that all I need to record is like the welcome in, it's episode blank. The interview today is with such and such, and man, it's so hard. This time of year is so difficult, and it's funny. I don't know. I just, it's so busy, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get these edited and put them out, but they're really good interviews. I'm excited to put them out at some point. The news of the day today, surprisingly not in the sports world, obviously. I start every show with something kind of fun to ease in. So the drilling, if anyone has been if you listen to the show regularly, you know that downstairs they're renovating the apartment below me. And in fact, actually, it's more than that. The water system behind the building has been entirely ripped out, and they're putting a new one in because there was a big leak. And so I'm told the drilling is supposed to stop next week. Now, today I sat down to record, and I'm not kidding, like within seconds of sitting down and hitting the power button on my camera, well, I guess I turned the power button on, I sat down, then I hit the record button with my little remote control. Anyway, I sat down. They just started going, I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. I was so excited. I'm like, show's going to come out. And it works out anyway, because right now it's 2:21 in the morning, meaning that it's like 8 a.m. on the East Coast, 5 a.m. on the West Coast. So this will come out Saturday morning. It is what it is. We do have a topic about college football. That'll be weird, but it'll work out. So anyway, I sat down and recorded. I'm like, well, this isn't going to work. And so I ended up going to see the movie Dune. And let me tell you guys, the movie Dune is amazing. It's one of my favorite movies I've seen in a long, long time. It gave me the same feeling as when I saw, basically it's Fellowship of the Ring. Don't expect it to be a movie that has an end where they put a nice bow on it. It ends with a cliffhanger. It ends with like, you want more. And that's good, because I just thought it was like the intro to a brand new franchise. And I'm not kidding when I say Dune gave me the same feeling as watching Lord of the Rings for the first time, or Harry Potter, or Star Wars. So I'm like, oh, this is a world I cannot wait to explore. It's a magical, fantastic movie. Really, really well done. I saw James Bond last night as well, by the way. James Bond didn't do it for me. Like, I get it, and I understand why. I fell asleep. Like, I felt horrible, and maybe because I'm tired and I work all the time, that's why I fell asleep. I'm in the comfortable reclining chair at the theater, but James Bond it didn't do it for me. Dune is like monumentally better than James Bond. Other weird side note, if you're a gamer, I love video games, and I play on Nintendo Switch a lot. Not a lot, but if I do play, that's what like my games now are all in totes right now. I haven't even set up any of my other consoles. My Switch is so easy to set up. I've done that. I bought a game on Switch called Trigger Witch, and it's $15. Dude, it's a top-down Zelda-style game with guns, and it's like a fantasy world with guns, and it's cute, and it's fun. I know the guy who wrote it actually DM'd him on Twitter. Not a sponsor, just a great game. Trigger Witch is $15. Played on Switch. Gosh, I think it's everywhere, but it's a really, really fantastic game. Now, one big news story today, we'll say this briefly. The Houston Astros are headed to the World Series. They beat the Boston Red Sox earlier on Friday night. It's awful. I hate Houston. What I want Atlanta to play Houston in the World Series. I've watched basically no baseball all year, but I do love baseball, and I will watch the World Series because, like, I don't care if my audience wants to hear about it or not. I'll bury it at the end of the show if that's what it takes. I'll just say, like, last topic, you can skip it if you want. World Series talk. I love playoff baseball. I've been sad I haven't watched more of it. I really kind of wish that if playoff baseball was in August instead of in October, I would watch it way more, because I'm busy with football. I can't have time to turn on random baseball games. But the World Series is like, okay, I can prioritize 6, 7, 5 games at the end of the baseball season, and I am rooting for. I want Atlanta to play Houston, and I want Atlanta to win. I want Atlanta to win 4-0. I hate Houston. Although I will say it's kind of interesting, like having a Houston team that's a villain does make me want to watch more, actually, because I'm watching hoping they lose. So in a weird way, and I hate them because they cheated and didn't get punished very harshly, and it frustrates me to no end. I will say, like, having a Houston Astros team be a really significant villain, that's powerful. That's a good storyline. So I am rooting for anyone to beat Houston. I don't care who does it, but I wouldn't mind if it was Atlanta. And man, the World Series is going to be interesting. You may not, if you don't even like baseball that much, I guarantee like you can get into it for one series because the World Series every time is so tense and interesting. And playoff baseball, like my voice cracked. You hear that? Playoff baseball, really any playoff sport, but playoff baseball especially is fantastic. How about that voice crack? That hasn't happened to me in a while. It's like I finished puberty fully like years ago. I don't know why that happens. I really, there's probably some science behind it. If anyone knows, write in, let me know. I want to offer a correction to start today. Last episode, I was talking about when the Tennessee Titans when the New York Jets beat the Tennessee Titans. I was talking about when the Jets beat Tennessee. And I couldn't remember if that game was in London or not. I think I ultimately was like, I think I decided it was in London. Like, I'll pick a side here. It was not. The Jets game in London was against Atlanta. So correction there. The game was in London against Atlanta, not against Tennessee for the Jets. Let's talk about Thursday Night Football. On Thursday Night Football, the Cleveland Browns beat the Denver Broncos 17-14. I don't have a lot to say. This was a game Denver could not afford to lose. It was very, very frustrating and kind of devastating. Like, the Browns have a ton of injuries. Their starting quarterback, Baker Mayfield, isn't playing. Both the running backs are out. Injuries everywhere. Like, one of their most impactful players, linebacker, Owusu Koromoa, whatever. I forget his first name. Jeremiah Owusu Koromoa, linebacker, was out. I blank on names sometimes. It's not like I don't know him. It's hard to talk for a living. Anyway, the Browns are injuries galore. No starting quarterback. No, like, their offense had like 3 starters on it that were healthy. And if you're Denver, you've lost 3 in a row, and then Denver lost again. It's horrible. After a 3-0 start, Denver now has lost 4 games in a row, which is terrible. And we know now the good start for Denver was because they played 3 bad teams to start the year. They played the Jaguars, the Jets, and the Giants. Each of those teams has 1 win. Each of them has 1 win. So it's just, I almost said all combined. They each have 1 win. The Jaguars and Giants are 1-5. The Jets are 1-4. Had their bye week last week. It's so disappointing because the Denver Broncos clearly have so much talent and they're unable to win. It's like, oh my gosh. And what they need in Denver is a better head coach and a better plan at the quarterback position. Teddy Bridgewater had a really bad, ugly interception in the end zone. Like, he's not awful, but Teddy Bridgewater's a backup. We've seen enough now. We watched him in Carolina. We've seen him in Denver now. Like, he's got a good roster around him. Teddy Bridgewater can't win in Denver with a lot of help. And so, to me, that's a backup quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater's a guy you would not build around. If your starting quarterback gets hurt, he can win you a game or 2. But you don't want to have Teddy Bridgewater as your franchise quarterback or your starting quarterback for an entire season even. And, man, this is a team the Denver Broncos passed on not only Justin Fields and Mac Jones. Brett Coleman the other day reminded me, oh, yeah, in 2018, they drafted defensive end Bradley Chubb rather than Josh Allen. What if it's frustrating? It's a facepalm. If you're a Broncos fan, here's what I saw. I saw the Twitter exchange between Brandon Perna of That's Good Sports. He said, basically, is there anything more depressing than losing however he did? And Brett Coleman just replied with a screenshot of the 2018 draft saying, yeah, I remember you guys drafted Bradley Chubb over Josh Allen. Imagine if Denver had Josh Allen right now. Now, would he have developed the same way? I don't know. I don't really trust any coaching in Denver. But, man, Broncos fans they have to be at an all-time low. And there was a moment where it looked like Denver, the beginning of the third quarter, right after halftime, it looked like Denver was going to play Drew Lock at quarterback. And nope. They're like, we like what's going on. Let's leave it here. We think Teddy's doing great. They did not make a change at quarterback. I'm like, why? What's happening? I don't understand. And there's not a lot more to be said. I mean, context cannot save Vic Fangio at this point. Whenever, like, outcomes do matter. I always try to say, like, hey, I listen to context and outcomes. A lot of people only focus on the outcome. And I remember when Denver lost to the Ravens a couple weeks ago, I said, well, let's see. How much does this loss mean? We don't know yet because Teddy Bridgewater got hurt, didn't play for half the game. Maybe Denver is good and Teddy Bridgewater is necessary for them to win. No, clearly, with Teddy, without Teddy, they're awful. And a lot of it is because they're held back by a quarterback and a coaching staff that, man, I don't know. You can't lose that game. Denver could not afford to lose to Cleveland, who is depleted, and it's so bad in Denver. There's so much potential there. There's good players all over the place, and what they need in Denver is a better coach and a better quarterback. And it's pretty obvious and clear. Like, I would be shocked if Vic Fangio kept his job. I don't know why you would fire him midseason. I think all that does is make things even harder for everybody. So I wouldn't fire Vic Fangio now unless you think it can get you a head start on hiring your next coach. Like, if you have a guy in mind and you're like, hey, we're going to fire a guy. Like last year, was it 2 years ago, Washington fired their coach early to hire Ron Rivera, like at Thanksgiving, because they're like, we want to get a head start on hiring our next head coach. So if that's what happens for Denver, that's great. But man, I'm really interested what kind of changes will happen. It's pretty clear, like, Vic Fangio needed Aaron Rodgers to save his whole like deal in Denver. And the difference, imagine if Denver had Aaron Rodgers instead of Teddy Bridgewater. How different we would be talking about the Broncos and how things might have played out. Or think of what if Vic Fangio stayed in Chicago as a defensive coordinator there, who was playing great. Like, a lot of people say Vic Fangio is the reason why Matt Nagy, the Bears head coach, won Coach of the Year that year. So a lot of what ifs, man. What if Pat Shurmur, the offensive coordinator in Denver, had stayed in Minnesota as offensive coordinator rather than going to the Giants as head coach? I mean, there's so many. I love the what if questions, and Pat Shurmur probably wouldn't have done as well because they didn't really have a quarterback. He left and they didn't have a quarterback, so they had to end up trading for Kirk Cousins ultimately to get themselves a guy because Case Keenum wasn't the guy there, and Teddy left, and Sam Bradford got hurt. But man, it's just sad how Denver so clearly is a team with potential that's being wasted with the wrong people in charge and at the top in Denver. Now, for the Browns, winning on Thursday Night Football is a great win. They survived a situation where they had a ton of injuries. Their starting quarterback was out. Like, if your starting quarterback is out and you win, that's always a good thing. And because it was a Thursday night game, now they have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and a longer week basically leading up to their next game for guys to rest and try to get healthy. And they're banged up. They need the rest. So, the Thursday night game, they, because they won, it ended up being exactly what they needed. They got a win and they got a long rest period, basically. Case Keenum, the backup quarterback in Cleveland, played really well. Baker Mayfield was hurt. He came in. And really it showed why Case Keenum is kind of the perfect backup. He's a guy you would not build around. But what he can do is if your starting quarterback gets hurt, he can come in and win a game or two with your guy out. And, I mean, there was a play. The interception didn't count. The guy was out of bounds. But Case threw a terrible deep ball down the left sideline, rolling out, trying to, like, late, not enough air under. Like, clearly Case Keenum has a limited arm and is not a guy you should build your franchise around. But he does do some good stuff, and I like seeing that. Now, Browns running back Dearness Johnson had a big night. Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, the two running backs in Cleveland, were both hurt. So their backup running back, I guess their backup running back had to play. Dearness Johnson, he had 22 carries for 146 yards and a touchdown. He was an Alliance of American Football player. Like, he had to DM every AAF team to try to get on their roster to get himself an opportunity. By the way, that's a crazy story. Like, if you never ask, the answer is always no. And I reached out to someone recently for, saying like, hey, I have an idea. I think we could work together. And that, man, like, if you never ask, answer is always no. And so I really like that Dearness' story is a story of a guy who made sure, he's like, I'm going to leave everything on the table, make sure I try everything, no stone unturned, try to make my opportunity. And when he got an opportunity here on Thursday Night Football, he made the most of it. He's an undrafted third-year player out of South Florida who, man, like, Dearness Johnson running for 146 yards on Thursday Night Football, what that does really is further makes my point that you should never draft a running back in the top 10. It's archaic thinking. And that it puts to shame so much Dave Gettleman, the general manager in New York, where it's like, man, this guy, he's just behind the times when he drafted Saquon Barkley in 2018. And it's crazy to think that Denver, by the way, lost to a bunch of Browns backups. Like, oh, Denver. Denver's the story here. Like, Denver, Cleveland, good for them. They survived a bad situation. They got out with a win. Great for them. But Denver is a sad story here of a team that just like refuses to win football games. I'm like, I don't, what are you doing? I can't understand. And it's sad. Cortland Sutton, by the way, had a great catch on the right sideline. I want to give a shout out to him. I always try to share like a final note. Cortland Sutton, the talent is there in Denver. Like they just need a quarterback, and I think they need a better head coach. And like, how crazy is it that like I think of Brandon Staley in LA with the Chargers. He's a fantastic young coach. And what if Denver had him instead? What if I just, man, I don't know. I don't know. Now it helps that LA has Justin Herbert and a good roster, but there's so many possibilities. Like maybe I should do a redrafting the Broncos and give them Josh Allen. See what happens there. Like that'd be kind of fun. I don't know. A lot of people, when I did my redrafting the Giants topic, I had fun with it. Like the point was to be like, what if, and have fun. And it's clearly not realistic. I said that multiple times. Like I literally compared myself to Marty McFly, time traveling. It's fun. All the people that got mad and like, this is unrealistic. I'm like, dude, you totally like fail. You missed the point. The point isn't to, it's not even like great critique of, I hate Dave Gettleman's drafting Saquon Barkley. The other picks are kind of cherry picking, like what could have happened better. But the point wasn't even necessarily to hate on Dave Gettleman. The point was to have fun and like talk about, man, imagine if they drafted better, what could have been in New York. So I talk about the Giants all the time, man. Maybe I'm like a closeted Giants fan. I definitely love, I think the reason why I talk about Giants so much is because their fan base is fun to me. Like I've been to New York. I've been to Dallas, but Dallas is just mean. And New York they're mean too, but they also have like, they're real, like Cowboys fans will tell you every year, this is our year to win the Super Bowl. And that strikes a chord with me where I'm like, okay, well, you're angry, but you're also unrealistic. Giants fans are angry, but they're also realistic. Like if their team has no shot, they're going to tell you, we suck and we hate it. We're angry about it. But there's a reality that the Giants fans live in a little more than Cowboys fans. And I don't know. I just really like Giants fans. And maybe New York sports fans in general. Giants, Philly, like Dallas is good too. Those are definitely my three favorite cities for sports: Dallas, Philly, and New York. And I talk nationally, and I interact with every fan base on some level. But those three cities have people who are passionate, and they will both love you and hate you depending on the day. And I think that's very fair. Like I don't mind that actually. Like if I'm wrong about the Eagles, their fans will let me know. But when I say stuff they agree with, they also love up on me. Like the same people that criticize me also love me. And I think that's really fair and fun. And I don't mind the hatred as long as when I say stuff you like or agree with or that I'm right about, you also follow it up with, hey, well, that's also a good point. So I don't know. I really like the way that no one would ever think of Philly as a smart fan. It's kind of because they're toxic and crazy. But there is some intelligence there to be able to do both. Like the thought that you can both criticize and praise the same person. As a lot of people can't even get to the nuance. Like if they hate you, you're bad and that's it. And they can't criticize you and also be interested in other stuff you have to say. Like they can't move past the hatred. A lot of people just people will be like, you said one thing I disagree with. Unsubscribe. Well, Philly fans, they stay subscribed. They just yell and are angry. And it's fair enough, man. Like I respect that. So I don't know. I'm rambling now, but sports, I just love fan bases that are passionate and care. That's really the thing here is if you're like a Minnesota Timberwolves fan, you're not passionate. Maybe you are, because there's not very many of them, I would assume. But that's a funny thought. Let's move on. I want to talk about the Super Bowl. As of this moment, I'm recording on Friday night, October 22nd. Technically, it's actually Saturday, October 23rd, 2:39 a.m. I guarantee you nothing will change between 2:39 a.m. and when this episode comes out, at minimum. The point is that, I'm really curious to see how the list will change as the year goes on. Like, by the end of the year, are the 9 teams that I think are Super Bowl contenders going to still be Super Bowl contenders? But currently, I believe one of these 9 teams will win the Super Bowl. Buffalo with the Bills, the Baltimore Ravens, the LA Chargers, Kansas City, the Dallas Cowboys, the Green Bay Packers, the Buccaneers. Number 8, the Arizona Cardinals. And number 9, the LA Rams. One of those 9 teams will win the Super Bowl, in my opinion. Now, one team that during the preseason I would have expected to be on this list is Cleveland. But Baker hasn't played great. We're in contract conversation with Baker Mayfield, and not we, but like there's the conversation like, what would you pay Baker? And it's like, well, Baker hasn't played great. He's played okay. He's done some good stuff, done some bad stuff, and Baker needs to play better for them to be considered a Super Bowl contender, in my opinion. And also, they're injured. Like the advantage the Browns have is they've got a great roster. Well, the great roster doesn't matter if all those guys are injured and your quarterback isn't playing great. So right now, there's too many better teams with fewer problems and a better quarterback than Cleveland. So that's why I do not have Cleveland as a Super Bowl contender right now. I also expected the Colts and the Patriots to be in the conversation. Currently, they're both 2-4. We'll see if, like, the year isn't over. We're only 6 games in. Certainly, like, New England could go on a run. Maybe like, suddenly a switch flips and Mac Jones is amazing, has no more mistakes, and the defense plays lights out. Like, I don't want to count out New England and Indianapolis just yet. Like, Indy's getting more healthy, kind of. I don't know. I really think that the future is bright for Indy and New England, but this year I think I overestimated how good they would be in their first year with new quarterbacks. Now, let's talk about the 9 Super Bowl contenders so far. Number 1, the Cardinals are 6-0, likely to go 7-0 after playing Houston this weekend. That is the J.J. Watt revenge game, him against his former franchise. The quarterback in Arizona, Kyler Murray, is the MVP frontrunner. He's fantastic, and they've got so many weapons on offense, including arguably the best receiver in the NFL, DeAndre Hopkins. So Arizona they have yet to slip up, and I guess they technically won a game because someone missed a field goal. Was it Minnesota, I believe? Someone can correct me there if I'm wrong. Don't bet on that, but it's not quite right to say that they haven't slipped up at all. They almost lost one game, but 7-0 is a big deal, and Arizona, they'll come back down to earth. They're not going to go undefeated this year, but definitely Arizona is a Super Bowl contender and should be one of the top frontrunners right now. Tampa's 5-1. The Buccaneers' weakness is their injuries in the secondary. Like, the injuries in the secondary right now for Tampa it's hurting them, and they're giving up too many yards, and I worry when they play a better team. Like, if the injuries persist and they play a team like Arizona in the playoffs, they're going to get annihilated. So, aside from that, though, Tampa might be the most, aside from a major glaring flaw, their secondary, Tampa might be the most complete football team in the NFL. They've got a shot to win back-to-back titles with Tom Brady. They do everything well. Again, the secondary is a problem, but Tampa's definitely a Super Bowl contender. They will be in the conversation come the end of the year. I have no doubt about that. The Baltimore Ravens are 5-1, and I remember when injuries kept piling up earlier this year. Their offensive tackle just got injured out for the year. So, but I remember during the preseason, like, their running back room got eviscerated. And I'm like, man, I'm getting more and more worried about this Ravens team. Well, their quarterback, Lamar Jackson, said, nah, no worry. It's all good. I'm gonna just glue everything together myself and fix it. He gets better and better as the year goes on, and the Ravens are 5-1. They smashed. I still haven't watched I'm watching that tomorrow morning, probably right after. I feel like every episode I say I'm going to watch a Chargers-Ravens game right after this, but I really am planning to watch that because whether I record about it or not, I really need to have some understanding of how did Baltimore destroy the Chargers. That's a surprising win to me still. I want to watch that game. But the Ravens are definitely a Super Bowl contender. Now, the LA Rams are 5-1. They traded for quarterback Matthew Stafford this offseason. Is he the best quarterback in the NFL? No. There definitely are a couple guys who are better than, a couple guys that are better than Stafford right now. But Stafford is a huge upgrade, undoubtedly, over the former quarterback in LA, Jared Goff, and he's making a big impact. There's some mistakes that Matthew Stafford has made, but he also has done some stuff that Jared Goff would never do. And Matthew Stafford, the new quarterback, paired up with their head coach Sean McVay, has been a huge home run together in Los Angeles. Okay, how about, let's see. Dallas is 5-1, and I was really, really wrong about them during the NFL preseason. I need to do a topic about that and really break down, like, not only that I was wrong, but why and what happened that made me wrong so far this year. There's a bunch of good pieces around Dak Prescott, the Cowboys quarterback. He is so much better. Like, Dak was always good. he's been like top 5 great in the NFL this year. He got way better in my opinion this offseason. And man, Dallas is not a Super Bowl front runner. Like they're not the number 1 team in the NFL, but they're definitely a Super Bowl contender. And this is a Dallas team that, I mean, they've got a great offense. They've got their offensive line needs to stay healthy. They got an older offensive line that concerns me. But like that, every team you can say, I guess. I mean, that's one of my criticisms of Dallas was like, I'm worried about injuries. Well, basically every team in the NFL, you could say, what if they get hurt? So that's maybe a weak criticism or a weak concern with Dallas. But man, Dallas, this is a team that could make a deep playoff run. I have no doubt about it. I watch what they do. And remember, they barely lost to Tampa at the beginning of the year. And I think we would all consider Tampa to be one of the better teams in the league. So I have been monumentally impressed with the Dallas Cowboys. They're 5-1 and for sure a Super Bowl contender. The Bills are 4-2. They lost a close game to Tennessee on Monday Night Football last week. Small details cost them in that game, and I worry that could be a theme we see later in the year. Regardless, though, Buffalo is dangerous. They've got a lot of talent in Buffalo. Their young quarterback, Josh Allen, is so good. Probably him, Justin Herbert, or Lamar Jackson are like the 3 best. Kyler Murray, I guess, man, there's a lot of good young quarterbacks in the NFL, but the point is Josh Allen's amazing and one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL. And, Buffalo got better. Like this offseason, Buffalo made a deep playoff run. They lost in the AFC title game to Kansas City. And then they upgraded a lot of positions on their roster, including their defensive line. And I love the way they rotate on the defensive line. So they brought in Emmanuel Sanders, who's made a huge impact. Dalton Knox is having a breakout year at tight end. The Bills are 4-2, and they are certainly a Super Bowl contender. The LA Chargers, the other team in LA, they're 4-2. I really want Bills and Chargers, or maybe Chargers and Ravens in the AFC title game, like some kind of combination of Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, and Lamar Jackson. Two of those 3 playing each other in the AFC title game would be amazing. Like the game to get into the Super Bowl, I'd be like, it's amazing football. The Chargers are awesome, and we all know Justin Herbert, their quarterback, is insanely good. But I don't know if it's a surprise. It is a surprise. I didn't know what to expect from Brandon Staley. He's a rookie head coach. The rookie head coach in LA, Brandon Staley, seems like already a massively good hire. I like him. He seems like a great dude, like the way he delivers messages. He also is fantastic at in-game decision-making, when to go for it on 4th down, when to punt, when to kick a field goal, that kind of stuff, when to throw a challenge flag. The players like him. Like Brandon Staley is the story of the year so far for the Chargers, and he is a big part of why they have a chance to win a Super Bowl this year. Now, don't forget about Green Bay. Green Bay is 5-1. They can beat anybody. This could be Aaron Rodgers' final year as the quarterback there with the Packers. It's hard to know. If it is the final year for Aaron Rodgers, he is going out in style. He's fantastic. And the Packers basically do everything well. Now, the one thing I want to say is, and this is maybe it's silly to talk about because I don't think it's going to happen, but it's still a fun thought. Imagine if the Packers traded for Odell Beckham Jr., the Browns receiver, at the trade deadline. Like, think of where that could potentially take their offense moving forward. I'm like, man, imagine that. Imagine if the Browns, I don't think the Browns would do it either. I don't know why they would, but Odell Beckham Jr. certainly has, it's a mix of, he's been underwhelming, and then a mix of like, the way he's getting targeted in Cleveland is also frustrating. Like I called him overrated the other day. Part of that though is that so he's not making the most of the opportunities he's getting, I believe, but he's also not getting very many opportunities. Like when you get 4 balls thrown to you all game and you miss one in a key situation, I'm like, well, why didn't you launch it deep to him like way more throughout the entire game? So my weird hypothetical fun thought is imagine if the Packers, who will not make this trade, I don't think they have the gumption to make that happen. But imagine, gumption, that's a big throwback word. Imagine if the Packers traded for Odell Beckham Jr. How fun that would be. Someone open up Madden and make that happen. That'd be a really fun roster to play with. So anyway, fun idea there. How about Kansas City? They're the final team that I believe of the 9 that has a legitimate shot to win a Super Bowl this year so far through 6 weeks of NFL football. Kansas City is 3-3. They're probably not going to win their division. I think they're a wild card team. I think LA, the Chargers, win the AFC West, and then KC gets in as a wild card football team. They still have Tyreek Hill and receiver Travis Kelce at tight end, and then Patrick Mahomes, of course, at quarterback. And I ask you this. Everyone talks about how, oh, Kansas City's down. Woo. Okay, well, let me ask you this one question. If they make the playoffs as a wild card team, do you want to play Kansas City in the playoffs? If I don't have a favorite team, and if I did, there's no way I would want to play Kansas City. I'm like, can I have Tennessee? Can I have somebody else? Don't count out Kansas City just yet. Mahomes has a couple extra interceptions so far this year. Okay, I'm not too worried about it. He's trying to do a bit too much. I think part of that's because he can sense, hey, this team is not as good as the last couple of years. He's trying to do too much, trying to make every play into a big home run. But also, like, the nuanced answer to that is it's not just that he's trying to do too much. It's also that's just his style. Patrick Mahomes is Brett Favre. Like, you got to look at him that way. And I think it's a mistake for anyone to criticize Mahomes for taking risks or being creative. Let the guy do his thing. It's good for football, and it's not like he can't win. We all know he can. So I just would relax on the panic button or the concern in Kansas City. Like, oh no, Patrick Mahomes. And I think in Kansas City, they're probably not panicking. Nationally, you see people criticizing Mahomes heavily. And I'm like, well, come on, guys. Like, let's slow down a little bit. It's not like he's been horrible. He's got a couple bad interceptions. Did you ever watch Brett Favre play football? Also coached by Andy Reid, the current Chiefs head coach. So, like, there's a big connection between Brett Favre and Mahomes and Andy Reid there. Also, like, again, I just encourage you, like, you have to let the guy take risks. Sometimes they don't work out. Sometimes they do and you win a Super Bowl. So, like, come on, calm down on the Patrick Mahomes concern. Anyway, those are the 9 teams that I believe have a legitimate shot to win the Super Bowl. Kansas City, the LA Chargers, Green Bay, the Dallas Cowboys, the Buffalo Bills, the Arizona Cardinals, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Baltimore Ravens, and of course the LA Rams. Those are the 9 teams that I believe have a legitimate shot to win a Super Bowl. One of those 9 teams, in my opinion, is going to win the NFL title when it's all said and done at the end of this year. I believe February 2022. All right, let's talk about NFL Week 7. We have reached NFL Week 7, and funny enough, there are 7 games that I want to highlight as the most interesting games this weekend. Number 1 is the Atlanta Falcons at Miami. Atlanta is 2-3. The Dolphins are 1-5. And all week we have heard rumors about a potential trade with Miami trading for quarterback Deshaun Watson. I'm not going to give you any commentary on that trade. We'll talk about that later if it does happen. But I'm really interested, given the conversation happening there, how does the current Miami quarterback Tua Tagovailoa play this week? He's a second-year player. It's a good game from him. I guess a good game from him would really help him a lot. Whether his future is in Miami or maybe he gets traded to Pittsburgh or maybe he goes to Houston, like wherever he goes. I don't know. Maybe he goes to Denver. A lot of people are saying maybe Tua goes to Denver. Regardless of that, certainly it could not hurt Tua at all to have a big game, throw like 4 touchdowns and 350 yards, something like that. So I just am curious, how does Tua play this weekend at home against Atlanta, given all the stories that are circling and the rumors swirling about Miami wanting a new starting quarterback? And I'm sure they're trying to make that trade happen, because why else would we hear about it? And I believe the reason why that rumor came out, by the way, is Houston said, we're not getting very much in this trade from Miami. Let's put it out there, show that, hey, it's about to happen. Miami's going to trade for him. Anybody else? Anybody else have a better offer? And nobody does, I'm sure. But I think the reason why I believe that trade could happen is because I think Houston put it out saying we want more than what Miami's offering. So let's see if the awareness of this trade potentially happening gives us an even better offer from some other team. Game number 2, it's Kansas City at Tennessee. The Chiefs are 3-3. The Titans are 4-2. Tennessee has a good record. They might be a playoff team. Derrick Henry, their running back, is a stud. I'm interested to see how he runs against Kansas City. But I don't think that Tennessee is this great, amazing team. They've got a bunch of problems, including, like, their secondary is a mess with the Titans. And if Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City cannot win this game against the depleted Titans secondary, then we officially will have something wrong in KC. Likely though, I believe Patrick Mahomes is just going to have a big day. They're going to win. But if the story here really is, if Tennessee wins, they're 5-2, and if Tennessee beats Kansas City and makes Kansas City 3-4, a ugly losing record, 3-4 for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, then we can start having the conversation like, how bad are things going? We're only 7 games in, but we got a losing record, and it's ugly. So I think so far the criticisms of Mahomes have been a little bit like, come on, relax. However, if they don't win this game, then I'm willing to start having the conversation like, oh, maybe things are going more sour than I thought. Game number 3, Jets at Patriots. The big storyline here is they both have rookie starting quarterbacks. This is Zach Wilson for the Jets against Mac Jones for New England. Game is in New England, and for the first time, hopefully, this is going to be the first of many matchups we'll see for years to come between Mac Jones and Zach Wilson. I believe, and I also hope, I do believe that, but I also I'm rooting for both of them. I want them to be franchise quarterbacks for each of their football teams. Now, the Patriots are a better team. The Patriots should win this game, probably by a lot, actually. But the Jets are coming off of a bye week. I wonder what they did during the bye week. I would imagine, hopefully, they spent a lot of the week stealth scouting, trying to understand how to make themselves better. And hopefully, they spent a lot of the week preparing for the Patriots. I am curious if having a bye week off will help the Jets make this game more competitive. I don't think it is, but I'm still curious because I like the quarterback matchup between Zach Wilson and Mac Jones. Game number 4, probably the biggest game of the weekend. You have the Bengals at the Baltimore Ravens. The Bengals are 4-2. The Ravens are 5-1. It's a massive AFC North matchup. Joe Burrow versus Lamar Jackson. Do I need to say any more? I can't wait for this game. It's going to be really fun, really exciting. The Bengals have turned their franchise around, and I don't need to say much more. Just think about, this is a huge matchup, a divisional rivalry between 2 great quarterbacks and 2 teams with good records. Game of the week, Bengals at Ravens. This will be definitely the game I highlight on the first episode next week. Topic number 1 will be front and center, hopefully, Bengals at Ravens, assuming it's going to be the great game. I think it will be. Game number 5, Lions at Rams. Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff against their former football teams. Remember, they were traded for each other during the offseason. It was a lopsided trade. Matthew Stafford went to L.A., Jared Goff and a bunch of first-round draft picks went to the Lions. Personally, I expect Matthew Stafford and the Rams to embarrass the Lions 35-10 or something like that. Matthew Stafford, I think, left pretty frustrated with his former football team, and he's going to be very motivated to, kind of get revenge against his former team. Now, the other thought, though, is how does Matthew Stafford handle pressure? I thought against Tampa earlier this year, the biggest game he's probably played in the regular season in years, I thought Matthew Stafford was underwhelming. So does the moment get to Matthew Stafford's head and affect him at all? I don't know. But that's a fun thought is, could that moment be a little bit big for Matthew Stafford? And can you imagine, think about this, can you imagine if Jared Goff got his very first win in Detroit on the road against the LA Rams and their former quarterback in LA, Matthew Stafford? Can you imagine? Sorry, the former quarterback in Detroit. Can you imagine that Detroit Lions fans are really, really frustrated with Jared Goff, their quarterback? They're like, we shouldn't have traded for this guy. We shouldn't have restructured his contract, all this stuff. But imagine if he became the hero and beat Matthew freaking Stafford on the road and got revenge for Lions fans. A lot of Lions fans for years were frustrated with Stafford going, this guy, there's a lot at play here. The narratives, the revenge, the storylines. I bet no one's going to throw out the possibility of Jared Goff winning this week, and I don't think he does. But imagine the few people that will be very, very happy in Detroit if Jared Goff does beat Matthew Stafford, who forcibly left their franchise. Weird and fun, and that's the most unexpected storyline. That would be unbelievable if it happened. Game number 6, Colts at 49ers. The Colts are 2-4. They're trying to save their year, and they were 1-4 last week. Then they won another game. The Colts will not be at full strength for this game either. Braden Smith, their right tackle, is not playing. He's hurt. Starting corner Rock Ya-Sin is also out. A couple big losses, among others that are I'm not going to mention. 49ers rookie quarterback Trey Lance is inactive due to an injury. Kind of funny, like, I did a film analysis of Trey Lance. It's interesting how when you use your quarterback as a battering ram, he doesn't like that very much. His body doesn't tend to respond very well to being used like a battering ram. I'm talking to you, Kyle Shanahan. The way you called plays for Trey Lance is really frustrating. Although a lot of people are like, is it even real? Maybe Trey Lance isn't actually hurt. They just want him out of the game to avoid controversy, so there's no question that Jimmy Garoppolo is going to play or not. They're like, to avoid controversy, let's just keep Trey Lance off the field this game. That's a fun conspiracy. I don't know if it's true, but it is an interesting conspiracy theory. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be a starter in this game for the 49ers. Does that help the Colts? It might actually be in their benefit. I don't know. Although I think Jimmy Garoppolo does some stuff mentally that Trey Lance isn't capable of doing yet, and we saw that against the Cardinals in Trey Lance's first ever start. This is a must-win game for the Colts. The Colts have to win this football game. How will Jimmy Garoppolo play? I don't know. Should be a good game, but the outcome has really big consequences for both sides in this game. And I want to say I'm bringing on a guy. His name is Colts Law Lawrence. He talks about the Colts on the internet. He's coming on the show. I'm recording with him on Wednesday next week. We will definitely talk about this game in that long conversation. I'm really curious to talk to him and kind of do a debrief on how the first 7 games went of the year for the Colts. So little teaser of that is coming next week. Game number 7, the final most interesting game in my opinion. Although there's one other game I talked about. What's the game? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Let me look. There's one game that I haven't mentioned. I'm gonna cut because there's something I want to look up. There's one other game. I said 7, but I'm gonna give a bonus one before we get into the Monday Night Football game. There's some game happening this weekend where I remember looking at it going, that may not be a good game, but it is still interesting. Okay, here is the bonus game. I looked it up. The game that this is going to be a bad game. I think it's going to be a blowout. But the Cardinals do play against the Houston Texans this week. The game is in Arizona, and I just think it's interesting because it's J.J. Watt against his former team. It's the J.J. Watt revenge game, and again, not a good football game. I wouldn't put it as my top 7 storylines, but maybe it is interesting because it's J.J. Watt's opportunity to kind of get revenge and put a beating on the former team that he left and was not happy with, and I'm really interested to see how J.J. Watt does against that offensive line in Houston. Now, game number 7 officially. I gave you a fun bonus one on Monday Night Football. You have the Saints at Seattle. I believe New Orleans wins this game, but Seattle has a shot. A lot of people are talking about this game being a blowout. Like, we'll see. Seattle's backup quarterback, Geno Smith, is playing because Russell Wilson, the regular starting quarterback in Seattle, is hurt. And in the last 2 weeks, Geno Smith coming in with Russell Wilson injured for one game, then playing against Pittsburgh last week. Look, he's not been amazing, but he's been competent. And so, like I said, a lot of people are predicting this game to be a blowout. I think it's better than we think because of Geno Smith. And also, do you really... Like, a lot of people are putting a lot of stock into Jameis Winston, the Saints' starting quarterback. I'm still not at the point where I trust Jameis Winston to reliably give us a great performance week to week. So I'm like, wow, let's slow down on this is going to be a blowout narrative there. Now, one interesting story here is that Saints receiver Michael Thomas is not going to play. Looks like he will not return until at least November 7th against Atlanta, the Falcons game. So it's interesting that I thought Michael Thomas was going to be back in this game. Apparently not. That's another thing that brings New Orleans a little bit down closer to Seattle. Either way, I'm hoping for a really fun and close game on Monday Night Football. Now, it's week 7. Here are the teams that have a bye week. The Bills have a bye week. Dallas has a bye week. Minnesota, the Vikings have a bye week. Pittsburgh, the LA Chargers, and Jacksonville. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams all have a bye week this weekend. And that's NFL Week 7 in a nutshell. The 7 games I'm most excited for, plus one fun, unexpected, unprepared little bonus game. J.J. Watt getting revenge against Houston. Okay, let's shift to New York. I've got a pink cup today. My little pink cup. Let me ask you, is it pink or purple? It's kind of like it's right on the border of both. And I'm curious what people will think. People give me hate, by the way, like, why do you have a purple water bottle? Because it's awesome. I don't know. Sorry, I can have purple stuff. It's not like I'm a dude, so I'm a dude who talks about football, so I can't have pink in my life. My bad. Like, it's a cup in my house. I really like it. It holds water. It's fantastic. I don't care what color it is at all. Anyway, I've been thinking a lot about New York recently, both the Jets and the Giants, and I had a fun question pop into my head. The first thing I started with was, which team would be better to be a fan of? Like, would you rather? That's a fun game. Would you rather be a Jets fan or a Giants fan? Like, which is worse? Maybe which is better? Also, I don't know. They're both like really not great. I wouldn't want to be a fan of either. And 1,000%, the Giants have had more good moments recently. 2 Super Bowls. They beat the Patriots. They knocked off the undefeated 18-0 Patriots in the Super Bowl. Taking that Super Bowl from Tom Brady. That's by the way, Boston versus New York in that game. I forgot about that a lot. It's really interesting. Forgot about that. The fact that it was like the equivalent of football's version of Yankees versus Red Sox. And anyway, the question really is not just which team would you rather be a fan of, but the Jets or the Giants. Which team right now has a better future? The Jets have a coach, rookie head coach Robert Saleh, general manager Joe Douglas, and rookie quarterback Zach Wilson. Joe Douglas has shown himself to be a smart general manager. I like him. I like the moves he makes. Now, both Zach Wilson and Robert Saleh are unproven. But I believe in both of them. I think Zach Wilson's got crazy potential. He's early. It's early. He's young. Like, people are way too harsh with rookie quarterbacks. Give the guy some time. Like, clearly you can see. Go watch Zach Wilson every week. Does he make mistakes? Of course he does. Does he also make a couple plays every game where you're like, geez, if this kid can figure it out, he'll make a throw where he's like running to his right, escaping a sack, launching it deep downfield for like a 35-yard gain into a tiny window, and you're like, oh, imagine if this guy played for the Packers or had a good football team around him. Like, Zach Wilson's clearly really, really talented. He needs time. Robert Saleh, I love him. Great leader, clearly like a good dude. His players love him. I got some friends who played for him in the NFL. They really, really like Robert Saleh. They speak very highly of him. And by the way, not every player speaks highly of their coach in the NFL. So while Robert Saleh and Zach Wilson are unproven, I believe in both of them. And if the Jets really do have the quarterback, the coach, and the GM all figured out, then what the Jets have done is found 3 of the hardest positions to find in the NFL. Now, the Giants, on the other hand, I've lost faith in their general manager, Dave Gettleman. Every day I lose more and more faith in their coach, Joe Judge. It's bad. It's really a lot of the stories of his style of coaching, we'll say, like the way he punished players, that kind of stuff. I'm like, that sounds like high school football. I'm like, well, we'll see. He had an okay year last year. No. It's not working. And I don't have much confidence at all in Joe Judge. And then the quarterback in New York with the Giants, Daniel Jones, it's a mixed bag. It's not all bad. Certainly, Daniel Jones, especially this year, has had really good moments where I'm like, oh, that's a really good game or two. But then also, like, he'll have, like last week, he had a terrible game. And right now, after NFL Week 6, I believe that the Jets, even though it sounds crazy, they're both one-win football teams, and the Giants have had more success recently. I believe the Jets have a better future than the Giants right now because the Jets have figured out coach, quarterback, and general manager, and right now the Giants have maybe a quarterback, and they're wrong on the general manager and probably wrong on the coach. So if I'm right now looking fairly at the Jets and Giants, it's probably better to be a Jets fan right now because your future seems much more secure and much more bright than for the New York Giants. Now, that could all change depending on who the Giants hire, what they do at quarterback. I don't know, but right now, today, the Jets have a better future than the New York Giants. And I don't know what the Jets can do or what the Giants could do to make them better than the Jets because that's how much I believe in Zach Wilson. Like, Zach Wilson is, I think, going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL at some point in his career. And I just think a lot of people are not understanding how good Zach Wilson is and how, yeah, he's had mistakes, but Zach Wilson has shown incredible potential early on. And, like, remember, that was Josh Allen. Josh Allen's rookie year was ugly. But Josh Allen had flashes where you're like, oh my gosh, that's a huge, amazing throw. So be patient. And I would not lose sight of the trajectory Zach Wilson is on. When you compare him to Josh Allen, you're like, oh, yeah, never mind. That could work really, really well in New York. Okay, let's end the show with this. It is currently 9:13 in the morning on the East Coast. So this is going to come out like right before college football happens. I don't know that you're going to like listen to this and go, "Oh my gosh, I'm excited too." Maybe what you do is go, "Was that maybe like you can play the game, play along?" Cuz I was going to record this, Friday morning. Now it's Friday 3:13 a.m. on Saturday morning. But maybe what you can do with this topic, I want to leave it in, is play along and go, what was Zach right about? Because we have reached college football week 8. It's not a crazy week. Like, number 1, Georgia has a bye week. Number 3, Oklahoma plays 1-5, Kansas. Number 2 team in the nation, Cincinnati plays 1-5, Navy. So, not a lot of amazing, great games this weekend. But I did come up with 5 games that I find really, really interesting. Number 1 is Northwestern at Michigan. That'll be fun because the question is, can Michigan remain undefeated? They've got a big game next weekend against Michigan State in the Paul Bunyan Trophy game. And by the way, Michigan State is also undefeated. They got a bye week this week. So we're kind of setting the stage for a really fun Michigan versus Michigan State game. But that really all hangs in the balance on, can Michigan at home take care of Northwestern this weekend? And I hope so. I'm rooting for that. Okay, number 25, Purdue is hosting Wisconsin. That should be interesting. Purdue is coming off of a big win upset over Iowa. Wisconsin's 3-3. I was excited about Wisconsin's quarterback, Graham Mertz, going into the year. And I haven't watched a lot of him, so I don't have the context to what's happened, but I know the outcome's a bit bad. He's been disappointing with 2 touchdown passes and 7 interceptions so far this year. I want to see how this game's going to go. I just am interested, can Wisconsin... whenever you have a big win like Purdue had last weekend, it's easy to come up flat the next week. Like, you're riding high and it's so emotional, and it happens all the time where a team has a big win and the next week loses to someone bad. Will Purdue take care of business at home against Wisconsin this weekend? I'm interested in that. Number 10, Oregon plays at UCLA. It's Chip Kelly, the UCLA Bruins head coach, against his former team, the Oregon Ducks. Could be a good game. Oregon's 5-1. UCLA is 5-2. Both have solid quarterbacks. I'm interested in Oregon at UCLA. Then you have Clemson at number 23. I almost said number 25. Number 23, Pittsburgh is hosting Clemson. I love Pitt quarterback Kenny Pickett. I know some people who know him, speak really highly of him. Kenny Pickett against this Clemson defense will be really, really fun. It's a great quarterback against a great defensive coordinator. Clemson D coordinator Brent Venables is fantastic, and I'm just interested in the matchup between Kenny Pickett and Brent Venables' defense. That'll be really, really fun this weekend in college football. The final game number 5, USC at number 13, Notre Dame. I would be shocked if USC won this football game. But as always, I will be rooting for a friend of the show, USC quarterback Keaton Slovis. I love the guy. I love his playing style. He's so much better than people give him credit for. And then Notre Dame's a better team, so Notre Dame being great, plus USC firing their head coach recently, I don't see how USC wins this football game. However, I am interested. It's a fun rivalry game. It's a game they play pretty much every year, and I think COVID screwed it up last year. But otherwise, I mean, pretty much literally every year, it's a fun game between Notre Dame and USC. And as always, it should be fun this year. So I'm very, very excited and interested in this game, USC at Notre Dame. All right, guys, that's all I have. I love you. I appreciate you. Hope you have a great day. I've been talking for a little over 50 minutes. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. Hope you have a great day. And bam. Oh, before I go see Dune. Dune is on HBO Max if you are cheap, which I don't blame you. Like, it's $15 to go see it. If you have the money, go see it in theaters, man. Dune is the kind of movie that, and they don't pay me to say this, although they should. Like, I don't know why movies don't, like, I would love to have a movie sponsor this podcast. I think they realize maybe I'll do it for free anyway. But if I see a movie I love to tell people about it. Dude, Dune, that movie is fantastic. And it's the kind of movie you want to see on a big screen, like in a theater, because there's some stuff in this movie where you're like, that is a massive, massive thing that I am glad I saw, like, right in front of me on a big screen TV. So on a projected massive screen in a theater. So anyway, I cannot recommend. Before I go, I just had to, as like your friend, Zach Schaumler, podcast host, I had to let you know, I cannot recommend enough you go see Dune. It's not going to have a great... The ending is a cliffhanger. Think of it like Fellowship of the Ring and the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Like, no one... The way Lord of the Rings, the first movie ended, no one was like, what the heck? They're like, well, no, it's part one of a series, right? Like, this is a new franchise. And not new. Dune is old. Dune has had many movies, but this version of Dune is like the people who made it were like, let's make the best Dune ever, and really like put all our weight behind it. They did that here, and man, I've literally been texting all my family members, go see Dune in theaters. It's fantastic, and I wish they were sponsoring. They are not, but regardless, I love the movie they've made. It's really, really fantastic, and I hope you go see it if that interests you. I can't recommend it enough. Anyway, I love you. I appreciate you. But bam, we are done.